China just released a brand new open source model. This one is a general AI agent which controls your browser, dubbed as DeepSeek Moment the Second. So, if we go to Forbes article first and then we'll go and check out the website. They say China's autonomous agent Manus changes everything. So if we scroll down, they say it's the world's first fully autonomous AI agent and it's the second DeepSeek moment. So let's go and have a look and see what they're on about. So this is the website manus.im and the tagline, leave it to Manus. Manus is a general AI agent that bridges minds and actions. It doesn't just think, it delivers results. Manus excels at various tasks in work and life, getting everything done while you rest. That's a long-winded way to say it's a browser using AI agent and computer using AI agent, which is cool. So essentially, it's like ChatGPT, operator, but it also has access to your system, your underlying system, meaning it can read files, it can write files, it can read internet pages. That was not the way I was going to say it, but it can read the internet, access the internet. It can also process stuff and do anything that a normal LLM can do. So here is the video. Go over to the website and watch it. But before you do that, let's have a look at the use cases. I cannot try Manus because you have to activate your account using a beta access code, which I don't have, but you can apply for it to request an invitation. So you need to request for an invitation to get it. So for 99.9% of people, we're going to have to just use the use case gallery. So from here, there's a bunch of stuff you can see: featured, research, life, data analysis, education, productivity, and WTF, which is pretty cool. And so when you click on one of these, it will show you basically Manus working. And so in today's video, we're going to actually cover a few different general ideas after we look at the demo as to what I'm thinking about this in regards to the demo, to the prompt engineering, to personalities, Chinese narrative, and then finally open source, because I don't really believe that these types of models are as open sourced as you think. So anyway, let's pick one. So let's pick something like podcast editing. That sounds interesting. So you're viewing a completed Manus viewing a completed Manus session. This is the replay. So you can see it's absolutely rapid. Right now you can see that Python, I can't even talk through it, it's so fast. I have a funny feeling this isn't actually how fast it is. Even if they're using like a billion GPUs for the inference, i.e. for the query, it shouldn't be this fast, I wouldn't have thought. Because it has to reason and think as to what it has to do. But we'll get to that in a minute. So please cut the podcast into a 2-minute highlight reel of key quotes, select complete sentences with clear viewpoints or interesting content, ensuring smooth transitions. So from here we pass in an audio file, and then it says, I'll help you create a 2-minute highlight reel. I'll first analyse the audio. So then you can see that it has access to a sandbox account, i.e. like a virtual machine, I think, something like that. Basically access to a computer. It then starts to download the relevant packages onto their computer so that it can actually analyse properly. Does all that stuff. Then once it's finished doing that, it says, I'm making progress. I've installed the necessary audio tools and started transcribing the podcast to identify key quotes. The transcription is ongoing. I've already captured several interesting segments. So then it continues the process where it starts to then save stuff as JSON files. It then writes some Python code, which it then executes on its own to then come back with this 2-minute highlight reel. And for that highlight reel, it creates a transcript, which is cool. But then it also creates an audio recording, which we'll listen to right now. Quick interjection, I'm creating a community for AI enthusiasts and entrepreneurs. If you're spending too long wasting time trying to learn AI on YouTube, getting nowhere, or you want to talk to people about it but you don't know anyone, then sign up to the waitlist and you will get a discount when we release the Applied AI community, which will be like within the next week. On the community, you will get access to a community of like-minded people, access to premium courses that I'm making on RAG, AI, NA10, LangChain, Python. The list goes on, including AI solutions as well, so you just download them and run them. And then I'll also have live calls for discussions as well. So if you're interested, join the waiting list, and I look forward to seeing you inside. I'll bring it over here.
DeepSeek AI, they've got this new model, DeepSeek R1, and its predecessor, DeepSeek R10.
These models are fascinating. They completely change how we think about teaching AI to reason.
And there you go. That is generated purely using AI. At first glance, that seems super cool, but I personally question its integrity. So let's, just for another idea, let me see how it can actually use the internet. So let's click on research, and then we'll actually move on to stuff. So research on the AR AI glasses. That sounds cool. Oh, market value of AWS. Interesting. Click on the research one, that's cool. So, replay it. Alright, so research articles and industry reports to compile comprehensive list of AR and AI glasses set to launch 24-25. You can see here that it's browsing the internet. You can see the pages that it's looking through. It's scrolling down this page. We can see here on the left hand side, if we click on them, it will pop open here. So it creates a file, what it has to do. So yeah, it makes a directory, creates a file of what it has to do. Then it starts going through the tasks, searching online, looking at different pages on the internet. Let's scroll back down to the bottom. Let's skip to where we are. How do we do that? There we go. So it's going through its to-do list. And there we go, it's done. So we now have a comprehensive table of AR AI glasses launched in 24-25. So that's pretty cool. So you can see it goes and searches the internet, which is pretty cool. Right, so how does this all pull together into my opinion and viewpoint? So we have Manus, the general AI agent, another DeepSeek moment. Basically, it's ChatGPT's operator, but it's open source and much better, apparently. So the first thing I want to talk about is demos. Demos are notoriously often fake. And when I say fake, sometimes they're faked as in they are completely fake, right? As in it's just like a video and not actually how the application works. But on other times they leverage happy path. So you have a path. So say I'll draw some nodes. So say you have a path of possibilities, right? These are the possibilities, right? Just imagine. And then from here, you then have paths to each possibility. So something like this, right? And then that one there, blah, 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 right? You get the gist. So now we have these possibilities. Well, one of these possibilities is the happy path, which is the path that you want a user to use for it to be correct. So, i.e., no errors, nothing, everything's perfect. And now that happy path could be something like start here, go here, up, down, here, here, and then say here. And say that's the happy path. Well, applications can carefully leverage this happy path in their demo to be like, my app works. And now when you're doing a normal application, that can be problematic, but also could be alright. Whereas when you're doing an application like this, where you're like, it's groundbreaking, it's going to change everything, and then you possibly are using paths which you know are the best use cases, kind of like ChatGPT's operator. Everyone's saying that it's actually pretty rubbish, and I think the reason for that is because it is generally probably not that good, but they just have, as you've seen, they've got partnerships with various websites, so they'll be using those websites to train their LLM. So then their LLM is a browser using website, but it's more so that it's been trained to use specific websites. And so that could be a kind of similar thing here. So that's the first thing. Is the demo legit? Possibly, possibly not. Is it as fast? Almost definitely not as fast as that. I just couldn't imagine it being so. The second thing is prompts. So if we were to check back on the Forbes article, let's scroll up. So it says it's the world's first autonomous AI agent. It says that it can initiate tasks on its own, which it appears to be able to do so. But the way that they frame this here, and this is probably more a critique at Forbes than Manus, but the general sentiment also of the product, is that what sets Manus apart from its Western counterparts is that whilst ChatGPT 4 and Google's Gemini rely on human prompts, Manus doesn't wait for instructions. Instead, it is designed to initiate tasks on its own. Yes and no. So the weird thing with this definition is that you'll have possibly seen React agents, right? Now you get them, they're LangChain agents generally. Like I've seen them, I use them in NAN, and if I'm writing in LangChain, so using the LangChain framework to create AI agents in Python, you can use like a React agent, which is a reasoning and action agent. Now this reasoning and action agent can reason, so it can think of what to do, and it can act, and it can do it. And it can do it based on the tools that you give it. You could give it a browser, you could give it a terminal, etc., executing code. So this is not brand new stuff. This happens anyway in agents. But they say it here as if it's like, you don't even have to prompt it. But if we come on over here, scroll up to the top, it literally says in the prompt, research articles and industry reports to compile a comprehensive blah, 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 right? A massive bit of prompt. Not massive considering, but generally quite big. So this here, I don't know, just seems a bit kind of over the top to me. I don't think it's as good as everyone's saying. It could be, but you know, I'm a bit of a cynic that way. The next thing here is personalities. So I've put a brain here because it's kind of like brains. If we go back again to the Forbes article, the next part that it talks about is the invisible worker. And if we go back to Manus and actually go into the home page, is this it here? Manus excels at various tasks in working life, getting everything done while she rests, right? So if China are going to bring this into China, I don't know what their billion people or however many are going to get up to, because apparently AI is going to take all their jobs. But in any case, we have this idea of idempotent. I don't know if the idea would be idempotency. I don't know. But anyway, when something's idempotent, it means that A always goes to B, right? And with LLMs, one would have thought that any prompt would go into an LLM because of the way LLMs are designed generally. So it's like little nodes that are connected together. And when you pass your data in, these nodes change in value and they will generate some sort of output, which would then go into B. Now, this here with the LLM, it isn't actually idempotent generally. A can often give different B results. But the difference here is that I notice personally when I use AIs, and I use them all the time, yes, I get a different B result, but it's like the same result. It's different, kind of. Like, it will be the exact same fact, but it will just be dressed up differently. So it'll be like the same graph, but just slightly different. Or it'll be the same phrasing, like something like, you know, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? And I'll be like, it's going to be sunny tomorrow. Then I'll ask another time, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? It'll be like, tomorrow it will be sunny. I'm like, that's the exact same answer, pretty much, right? And I think that people, workers are valued based on their brain. So you acquire top tier talent because you trust their judgment and their skills. Now the problem I can see possibly with Manus here, and with any AI agent, is that suddenly you start getting into this realm where you have like an AI which is generally not idempotent, so they normally have different answers, but the answers are all based on the same LLM, so the facts of their answers and the pattern that they follow is generally the same. So the likelihood of them being able to see outside the box or having like specific LLMs that you would rely on, it's like everyone has access to them. It would be like if you're top player in your team, everyone could have a try of them. You know, maybe you'll interact differently on different pitches and different scenarios, but it's the same guy. And so suddenly the competitive landscape just changes a bit, in the public domain at least, which is an important point. And secondly too, I think with this amount of processing, like people have to ask it to do things, and people can only consume so much. So if you have AIs like this autonomously doing stuff, and they're all doing stuff, I just don't see how it could make so many decisions that people can consume them. I don't know. Just my thought. So the next 2 points here we'll cover is China and the narrative. So the thing here is everything in China that they're bringing out right now, this kind of direction, is that in the West we are closed source for AIs, and in the East they're becoming open source. Now, we'll go into in a minute what does it really mean to be open sourced as an LLM, because it's not the same as normal technology, so normal software. But I think that a point of view that I've heard on podcasts which resonates with me is this idea that if China win the AI race, they will win the race to control the narrative of information. So, for example, if you ask it about certain things like DeepSeek, it will just not give you an answer. It will say, I can't talk about that, etc. Now, if China win the AI race, then people will be using their AIs because it's the best, and they'll be able to control the narrative of what people think. And the entire premise of that part of the world, the part which people feel the most, is this idea of controlling the narrative, of the lack of free speech, etc., etc. And I think that's the dangerous part here of open sourcing. And the reason that they're possibly open sourcing is to increase their adoption of the models in the West, such that they can then try and control the narrative. That is a possibility, and it's worth consideration. Finally, number 5, open source models. Open sourcing an LLM is not the same as code. So if I was to open source my application and it has a Python file called X, then this code would say do something. So say I would have some functions, so I would define some function A, and then what it would do is it would do B plus C and whatever, right? And this would be the code. Now when I open source that, everyone could see what this is, this code. Perfect, right? Because then suddenly I could use it, I could change it, I could do whatever. I could see how it's working under the hood. I could see if it's it could be difficult if there's thousands of lines of code, but I could try and figure out, is this doing something malicious? The problem with LLMs is that they're coded in such a way that open sourcing LLMs actually means open weight. Generally, there's not an agreed upon term, but it generally means open weight. Now what does that mean? Well, in an LLM, in this description here of nodes, there are a variety of parameters, right? And the parameters are the nodes and they are the connections between. So, and like you'll see when you download a model, you'll see a model, like downloading it to use on Olama, or if you see it online or whatever, they'll be like, this is a 32 billion parameter model, blah, 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 right? Or 17 billion, or whatever it may be, right? Generally, the more, the better. Not always, but especially with the introduction of DeepSeek, where they have a mixture of experts, where they have different experts, which so they don't have to have all of these parameters on at once. They'll have maybe one flow for code and one flow for creative thinking, whatever, right? So anyway, you have this here, and the open weights is they'll tell you what are the weights of each of these nodes. The reason being is because if you can then tell people what the weights are of these nodes, then they can download it and they can run it and they will get an answer as if they were using that model, right? Which is cool, because then it's like you can use that model offline. The problem here is that it's open weight, not open source. Open source is a difficult one to pin down, because to create this, you first create this structure, you then pass in a bunch of data with verifiable answers, so to try and like reinforce how it runs. So you put data in and you basically say this is a good answer, this is a bad answer, or you can just say this answer is good, this type of answer, and then it will continually run on that, and it will become more equipped to developing a specific type of output based on how you train it. So the problem here is that if you open weight, if you go through a kind of open weight model, open source, but you don't disclose the data nor the training that was specifically put in, then you don't actually know what it was trained on. So although you have the weights, you don't know how the weight got there. Therefore, the code isn't really open source, because it's like, what data did you use to train it? And actually that can be really difficult to pin down, especially like you see copyright stuff going on where people will be like, oh, it trained on my book. That's really hard to prove, but especially like you'll see the thing, loads of DeepSeek will say like, I am ChatGPT, so it thinks it's ChatGPT, but that's because often there's so much info on the internet referencing ChatGPT that it kind of thinks that it's ChatGPT, not necessarily because it was actually trained on it, nor because it's the underlying, not because it's like a wrapper where it's pretending that it's DeepSeek, but it's actually ChatGPT. So anyway, this is hard to prove, but if you don't release the data and how it was trained, then the open weights doesn't really disclose as much as you think. So it's kind of like a linguistic game where they're like, we're open source, and you're like, yeah, I suppose that's cool, but it's also not, because I can run a machine, but only if my machine's worth like $10,000. So anyway, the general overview is they have a new general AI agent, which does look pretty cool, looks super promising. If it's open source and open weights, it means you can then run it on your own machine, so you don't have to worry about giving them your data, but you don't have a machine that's powerful enough to do it, probably. But you could try and run it in AWS or, DigitalOcean or something. Possibly. But anyway, there you go. Is it the next DeepSeek moment? Possibly. We just need to wait and see. Is it actually as good as they're making it out to be? Because often they're not. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and make sure to let me know, what do you think about this? What direction you think it's going on? And do you have an opinion on any of these points that I made today? So, till next time, I'll see you later. Take care.